And so, can you hear us?
Okay, so let's give them another minute or two to get their technology and connections ready, and then we can kick off.
Jonathan, j'ai l'impression qu'il ne nous entend pas.
No, can you hear us?
Yes.
Ah, ok.
Ici, est-ce qu'on nous entend?
Oui, on vous entend déjà.
Good. Bon, ben, bonjour tout le monde. Good morning, everyone. Je ne sais pas s'il faut aller en français, en anglais, but I will be switching over from one to the other. And si vous avez une question en français, posez-la. We will address it as we can. So I won't be able to mention everybody on the call, but thank you all for being here today. And I will first start by sharing my screen here. So just to remind us all why we are here today. Okay. You should be able to see my screen now as we speak.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. So we are here to for the launch of the CACAIS, which is the Central Africa chapter of the AIS. And today we will be going through different topics, different items as listed here in our agenda. So we'll have a welcome statement, which is just a few minutes away to come. We'll have presentations from key speakers who will be introduced to you later on in a few minutes as well. Then you will have the opportunity to ask your questions. So as we speak, feel free to write down any question that you may have. And our speakers will have the opportunity to address them all. And then we'll have a closing statement by Professor Samuel Wamba as well, who is our president and founding member of this organization. And of course, we'll see how we can go from here. He will be able to give us some directions after this meeting. So, quelques petits éléments que je veux mentionner ici. Si vous avez des questions, okay, feel free to put your questions in the chat, in the conference chat. Nous allons les revoir et puis nous les passerons à qui vous voulez les poser pour avoir une réponse. I'm not sure if Madame Chantal is on the call, but Aurel, do you know if she's around? I don't see her in the list here.
Let me check.
So, as we're doing that check, let me just start with our welcome statement here. I won't be saying much, but just a reminder that this kickoff is mainly here pour partager avec vous, avec le public, les objectifs du CACAIS. Et le professeur Samuel va nous expliquer un peu plus en détail c'est quoi le CACAIS, qu'est-ce qu'il fait, d'où il vient, et puis toutes les questions que vous avez à cet égard, il pourra y répondre. Il s'agit aussi de faire un peu le portrait des systèmes d'information de la technologie IT dans la région d'Afrique centrale, les défis et les amorces de solutions que nous pouvons suggérer. And of course, this is something that's ongoing. We're just starting today, mais it's a work in progress. So, ce sera le point de départ aujourd'hui. Et évidemment, plein de choses vont devoir se faire par la suite pour qu'on arrive à quelque chose de plus concret et d'utile pour tout le monde. Et bien entendu, on évoquera quelques retours d'expérience. Autour de la table, nous avons des conférenciers assez qualifiés pour parler de tous ces éléments-là. Et vous aurez l'occasion de les entendre tous l'un après l'autre, le professeur Samuel Wamba, le professeur Kala, qui lui, il est à l'UQAC à Yaoundé, professeur Frederick Riggins, Katina, I'm sorry, I always say Katrina, but it's Katina Michaels, and Dr. Antoine Arfouche, Dr. Chantal Nve, who is also in Yaoundé. Our speaker, Valentin Mbozo, may not be speaking directly to us, but he sent us a video which we will present. Aurel and myself will be speaking as well in this session. And before we go any further, I would like to thank these organizations here which have made this event possible. So I would not list them all, but without their contributions, it would have been very difficult to, or even impossible to hold this event. Donc, sans plus tarder, we will move to our first presentation of the day, which will be by Professor Samuel Wamba. I'm not going to spend too much time on telling you what is CACAIS. He knows it better than I do. Donc, I will leave it up to Professor Wamba to explain. Professor Wamba, vous êtes prêt?
Okay, thank you very much. You can share my slide if you. So, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening for those who are already in the night where you are in the world. So it's a privilege for me to be in this beautiful room, actually run by one of our graduates from the Master of Science in Information System from the Catholic University. So it's a privilege for me to be here today. So being here for the official launch of this chapter, this new chapter, is also a privilege for me. And then what I would like to basically share with you is what are some of the reasons behind the launch of this new chapter. As you already know, my name is Samuel Wamba. I'm a professor in Information System and Data Science at Toulouse Business School, now called Toulouse Education, or TBS Education. I'm also the founding president of this new chapter. Next, please. So for those who don't know what is the Association for Information System, actually this is an international association that to serve the society through the advancement of knowledge and the promotion of excellence in practice and study of information system. The association is actually the premier professional association for all individual or organization leading research, teaching, or practices or study in information system. Its strategic goals is really to position information system as a leading profession in the service of society by leading and promoting excellence in information system education, information system scholarship, and also by cultivating community by providing services and products to meet the diverse needs of its members and of its community. Next, please. So in terms of services, the association actually offers many services, including, for example, information such as the Information System Job Index, which is actually a longitudinal assessment of placement, type of job, satisfaction, acceptance, and also we will have the Global Media, which is actually a global initiative aiming to help universities to promote their program worldwide. And we also have career services, in practice services, basically that will offer practitioners access to cases in order to help them to kind of operationalize some of the insight from these cases. We also have the IES News, where all the members actually will have access to up-to-date information related to research, conferences, books, chapters, and so on. Next, please. Next, please, Valen. Okay, so the association actually offers a range of services. No, you went too far. You went too far, Valerie.
I went too far. Okay.
Yes, this one. So actually, the association has a range of community, and each community actually has its unique objective, geography locations, or their objectives. And then within this community, we have 38 specialized interest groups, and each interest group actually is working toward advancing some of the specific research within the association. We also have 42 chapters that are actually helping the association to achieve its missions. And these chapters has the objective to provide local services to their community, including conferences, access to discussion groups, access to job placement or job posting. And then if we look at the division of the IS in terms of regions, we have 3 regions. We have the region 1, which is actually the main one that will cover, for example, the North, the Center, and the South America. We have the region 2, which is our region, where we have the Europe, the Middle East, and the Africa. And then we have the last region, which is region 3, covering the Asian and the Pacific. And in terms of members, actually in 2019, we have about 4,000, we have about, let me check this, we have about 4,833 members. When I talk about members, these are registered members that you need to pay some fees, including, for example, 3,227 academics, with a drop in 2020 to 2,885 academics, mainly due to the COVID. Next, please. Next slide there. In terms of conferences, actually the association also has a set of conferences and journals. And when we talk, for example, in terms of conferences, we have the American Association of Information System, the International Conference Information System, the Pacific Asian Conference of Information System, the European Conference of Information System, and the association also is supporting what we call the basket of 8 journals. That means the top journal in information system. And when we look at the publications, we look at the publication numbers of Africa within this outlay, we will see, for example, that in 2018, when we look at non,
Donc, du coup, peut-être parler de...
Valet, tu nous vois toujours? So regarding these top journals, when we look at the contribution of African within this outlay, we'll see, for example, that from one of the conference, we have only 3 conditional accepted papers from Africa. And when we look at the top journals, we look at the global assessment of contribution within the top journals, we will see that we have less than 2% of paper with African or African descent scholar. So then we have very limited number of contribution from African and African descent. So that's why actually we decided to launch this new chapter, the Central Africa chapter of the Association for Information System. The objective being to facilitate the access of our member to all the information system resources, but also to promote the excellence in information systems within our academic and professional, with a focus on how to use information system for social good and economic development. We also want to support our members in order to develop skills to publish cutting-edge articles in top journals and conferences, and also to basically develop cases that will bring some aspects of or some specificity of the Central Africa and share this knowledge with the rest of the community. We also want to create strong links with other information system communities, such as the ICTO. And in a very short run, we want to launch the Central Africa Conference of Information System. And in the medium run, we want to also launch the Central Africa Journal of Information System. So basically, this is what we intend to do with all the team within the Central Africa chapter of the Information System. Thank you very much, and then let's hope good discussion for the future of our chapter. Thank you very much to everyone.
Thank you, Professor Wamba. And please write down your questions if you have any, and we'll have the opportunity to answer them shortly. So we'll go to our next speaker, who will be Professor Kala from the from UCAC in Yaoundé. And Professor Kala, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Valère.
Most likely connection issues with Professor Kala. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Professor Kala, are you there? Can you hear me? Okay. Maybe we'll come back to Professor Kala's presentation. I will skip Professor Kala for now. We'll come back to his presentation later on. So let's go to the next presentation, which will be by Aurel and Dr. Mve. So I haven't seen Chantal in the room there. Can you hear me, Dr. Mve?
C'est moi qui donne l'argent.
Allô,
J'ai l'impression que tu ne
Please, s'il vous plaît, pouvez-vous fermer vos microphones si vous ne parlez pas, parce que ça crée une bonne perturbation ici. So please turn off your microphone if you're not speaking. Okay, so I probably lost track somewhere here, but should I go back to Professor Kala? Are you available now, Professor Kala?
Yes, I'm ready, yes.
Perfect, okay.
I'm available.
Let me bring up your presentation and
Yes.
we go from there.
I can go ahead.
Yes, please. Go ahead. Just one more second here for me to load your presentation, please.
Yes, thank you.
Somebody that's coming up. What's happening? Okay. I'm sorry for that. Let's go.
Okay.
Next slide.
No. Next. Yes. Valer?
Yeah.
Yes, you can go to the next slide, please.
Okay.
Then, I like to present here the origin of our master degree.
Actually, not able to see anything. The screen is dark.
The objective
Please
of
close
this
your
master
mic.
degree is to train managers who fully integrate the ICT component in the elaboration of the company choice, like strategy, market, organization, and technology, and enhance the leverage that this new technology represent thanks to a transversal understanding of company functioning. Then you have two components, management and technology, which link together to integrate the process of enterprise. Okay, go ahead. The next one, please. The next slide.
Yes, it's already up.
The student who reach this master have different origin. The first origin is technology origin, and the native origin in our university is bachelor degree in economic and management with in quantitative option. And then all the students come to the master one. And the first year of the master is concern information system and organization. And we can have a special access from the man who already have the master in engineering program. They can come directly to the master too. And they come, and the result is information system manager. The next slide, please. You have globally the training content. You have three pillars of content you are master. The first one is management. The second one is information system governance, and the third one is business intelligence. Then is what is the main pillar of the content of this master that we translate to the student. The next one, please. For this master, you have some achievement now. Many students who have this master come to the consulting firm. Someone go to the company, someone go to specialized master degree in Europe and North America. And we have now many students who go to the doctorate PhD, to the PhD program. And we have also the student who have created a company like Orel, who is the chief officer of the Brainbuster. And the other result concern the research is a link with the CACAIS group. We have about 16 ranked articles and 20 international conference papers and 3 books chapter now. The next one, the next slide, please. Thank you. I finished my presentation. Yes. Thank you, Valet.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Kala. Don't forget to add your questions to your list once again. And our next speaker is Dr. Chantal Mvé, who will be entertaining us about the, I think she will be going in French, les technologies et comment elles peuvent constituer un levier de développement pour l'administration publique. Chantal, you have the floor.
Thank you very
Dr.
much.
Mvé, I have to change my, I will say Chantal. Dr. Mvé, you have the floor. Go ahead.
I will try to speak. I will first say something in French, and then I will summarize what I have said in English. Sorry for that, but my English is not as good as yours, so I will try to do my best. En fait, comment les technologies peuvent constituer un levier de développement pour l'administration publique? Je vais principalement parler d'une sorte d'état des lieux et surtout présenter ce qui est fait au niveau du ministère des Finances. Le ministère des Finances étant le département ministériel au Cameroun qui a vraiment emmené les technologies de l'information et de la communication au Cameroun au niveau de l'administration publique depuis les années 60, 70, 80, et puis les autres départements ministériels et l'administration publique en général a suivi. Alors, ce que je peux dire, c'est que globalement, au Cameroun, le ministère qui porte ces technologies-là, c'est le ministère des Postes et Télécommunications. Mais il faut savoir que avec le boom des technologies, au Cameroun, avec la mise en œuvre des OMD, il a été très vite question de s'asseoir pour essayer de mettre sur pied un plan de développement, d'abord de l'informatique, ensuite du numérique, pour essayer de mettre par écrit la vision pour qu'on n'aille pas dans tous les sens. Ce que je vais dire aussi, c'est que le Cameroun a eu comme vision le document de stratégie de développement les 10 dernières années. Et depuis quelques mois, nous sommes dans ce qu'ils appellent ici le SND 30, qui est une autre implémentation de la vision de développement qu'on veut avoir ici. Et c'est ce SND 30-là qui a beaucoup plus intégré les technologies de l'information et de la communication dans les administrations. Du coup, il y a eu beaucoup d'actions stratégiques au rang desquelles, outre les plans stratégiques qu'on a dû écrire Cameroun numérique 2020, un gros projet d'accélération de la transformation numérique au Cameroun qui est essentiellement dans l'administration publique et qui vise les réformes et les politiques publiques dans le secteur des TIC, avec éventuellement la création des fonds spéciaux de développement numérique, parce que ce qui a été mis en exergue dans les 10 premières années, c'est qu'il n'y avait pas d'argent. Et donc, il fallait vraiment réfléchir dans l'administration, comment est-ce qu'on pouvait faire pour avoir de l'argent pour faire développer l'informatisation et les technologies de l'information. Dans dans la ligne de mire de l'opérationnalisation de tout ça, on a essentiellement au ministère des Finances des projets qui visent à mettre à la disposition de l'administration publique divers documents, notamment dans les finances publiques, à travers la dématérialisation, ou alors pour l'administration fiscale, par exemple, à travers l'élargissement de l'assiette fiscale, ou alors la proposition de la diversification des moyens de paiement électronique, notamment au Trésor public, au ministère des Finances. Ces projets-là sont effectifs en ce moment, c'est-à-dire que je ne parle pas des choses qu'on va faire, mais je parle des choses que nous sommes en train de monitorer au ministère des Finances en ce moment, notamment la dématérialisation des procédures fiscales, la sécurisation des recettes à la Direction générale des impôts, avec le télépaiement des impôts qui est effectif. Et puis, le gros projet qui est mis en œuvre par un contrat PPP entre le Cameroun et la Corée dans l'administration douanière qui s'appelle le CACAIS-1, le nouveau système d'information, qui a vraiment un gros pan de dématérialisation de beaucoup de procédures qui étaient papier et qui, au fur et à mesure, sont, vous entrez au port de Douala avec quelques papiers, vous ressortez par la banque avec le paiement et vous n'avez plus de papier à remplir et vous avez votre matériel qui est dédouané et que vous enlevez du port grâce notamment à CACAIS-1, qui est un projet qui est sur 15 ans et nous ne sommes qu'à la 3e année. Donc, on a encore 12 ans avant que les Coréens ne nous lâchent complètement. Et vous avez aussi la simplification de la mise à disposition des documents comme le bulletin de solde, l'attestation de virement irrévocable, qui étaient des documents délivrés de manière physique au ministère des Finances et qui maintenant ne le sont plus. Et donc, on peut voir tout ce qu'il y a derrière comme dispositif de contrôle. Et rien qu'avec ces 3 projets, notamment celui de la dématérialisation des procédures douanières, on voit l'impact et surtout le lead qu'a le ministère des Finances dans la vulgarisation des technologies de l'information et de la communication et dans la vulgarisation de la mise en œuvre d'un système d'information, et ce qui permet que l'impact au niveau de l'économie est important et la douane camerounaise engrange des résultats positifs un peu plus chaque jour. Cette dématérialisation des procédures au niveau de la douane a aussi entraîné avec elle la dématérialisation des procédures du commerce extérieur du Cameroun. Voilà 3 gros projets qui sont mis en place au niveau du ministère des Finances en ce moment, qui sont exploités pour vous dire qu'il y a des choses à faire. Ça, c'est seulement le ministère des Finances, mais c'est le leader. Et les autres administrations se mettent derrière le ministère des Finances pour aller aussi vers la dématérialisation le plus loin. En guise de perspective, il est important de savoir que comme le SND 30, la SND 30 a mis en exergue les technologies de l'information et de la communication, il sera important de suivre la construction de l'infrastructure numérique conséquente, la sécurisation globalement des réseaux et surtout, il est prévu quand même une société de créer une société de patrimoine de l'informatique et ce qui va permettre de mieux cerner le développement des productions, des contenus numériques et surtout d'accroître et de diversifier les services numériques. Voilà ce que je pouvais dire en quelques mots en français, ce que nous avons pu faire déjà au ministère des Finances, qui est quand même le leader au Cameroun. Can I summarize what I have said? I don't know.
Absolutely, yes, go ahead.
I will try. It's just that in the public administration in Cameroon, the Ministry of Finance is the leader of the implementation of the new information systems in the administration. And what is done in the Ministry of Finance is an example of implementation for the other ministries and for the other minister, and is the best example the government, the entire government can show to the other government when it's asked. We have in the Ministry of Finance three programs, I can say like that, in the, comment on dit fiscal, in the, comment on dit administration fiscale?
Taxes.
Taxation administration. The e-declaration and the e-immatriculation of all people we can deal with with the taxation in the administration of taxation in Cameroon. And then we have also in the administration of comment on dit douane, Monsieur Pomme?
Customs.
Customs, voilà. In the customs administration, we have a program of
dematerialize
of taxation procedure, and this program is being implemented now, and the impact in the customs are the very big amount of money coming in the administration, because now we can more control how it is paid, because it's paid in the bank office directly, or in some offices like Guichet Unique, where everybody can come and can pay, and we have no more papers to fill. You fill papers only one time when you started your procedure, and then you have all the procedure in CACAIS, and you can pay at the end in the bank office, or where you don't have CACAIS because we don't have internet everywhere in Cameroon. We deal with the administration of taxation, so we have interconnect the administration of taxation and the administration of customs, where we don't have internet, but you know that taxation they are everywhere in the country, so they have manual procedure, and then we can have it in our system. And then you have for civil servants, we have digitalized all the pay slip, and normally everybody can have his pay slip now in his laptop or his phone. Yes, because we have succeeded to digitalize all our pay slip, and every month before going to have your money, you can see your pay slip and with your matricule number. That's the three important program we have in the Ministry of Finance. And as I've said in my first how I have said before, the Ministry of Finance, by implementing this big project, is helping the others to know how to do it, and that's why and that's how the administration, the public administration in Cameroon, use more digitalized procedure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bravo, Madame Ve. Thank you for your presentation. It was nice though, don't worry. It was good. So I'll come back to what we've been saying since the beginning. That was a presentation from Madame Ve. Please have your questions written somewhere. We will come back to them, and we'll have the opportunity to answer them when the time comes. The next presentation is by Aurel, someone who is leading, who has helped a lot and even leading the implementation of the CACAIS in Cameroon. I personally love her a lot. So Aurel, you have the floor. I really appreciate what you're doing so far. Great job.
Thank you, Valère. It's my pleasure to be here today. If I have to introduce myself briefly, I'm the founder and CEO of Brain Booster, which is a business accelerator and a co-working and meeting spaces in Cameroon. So we work with small and medium businesses to help them in the development of their companies. I'm also a Tech Women alumni, and yes, I've worked with CACAIS to set up this event, and I'm really happy to be here today. So I'm supposed to talk about how technologies can be a driving force for development of SMBs. We go ahead in French so that most of the people can understand me very well, and if necessary, I could answer some question in English. So, on va commencer par le constat qui est fait. So next slide, please, Valéa. Qui est celui du fait qu'on a un très faible taux d'adaptation des technologies de l'information et de la communication par les PME de manière générale, malgré en fait la baisse des coûts du matériel et des composants informatiques qu'on a pu observer ces 30 dernières années. Et ça a certainement des causes. Et de manière globale, ce qu'on observe, c'est que les PME dans les pays en développement comme le nôtre au Cameroun ont une structure très centralisée sur le chef d'entreprise. Ce qui fait que la décision du chef d'entreprise est en général prépondérante sur l'orientation stratégique de l'organisation. Et sachant que les dirigeants de petites entreprises en général sont des personnes qui ont une forte aversion au risque, Cela fait que les PME ont une faible tendance à entreprendre des changements organisationnels. Or, les études ont montré qu'il existe un fort lien de causalité entre l'initiation de changements organisationnels et l'adoption des TIC. Donc, c'est pourquoi il n'est pas étonnant d'observer donc le fait que dans les pays en développement comme les nôtres, où le tissu économique est essentiellement constitué de PME, qu'on ait un faible taux d'adoption des technologies, donc justement parce que les entreprises peinent à introduire des changements organisationnels et donc de fait l'adoption des technologies. Autre cause, il y a le fait que certains dirigeants n'aient même pas conscience en fait de la nécessité de réaliser une transformation numérique de leur activité. Et ça s'observe dans différents secteurs d'activité. On a également le manque de ressources matérielles, financières et humaines. Quand je parle de ressources matérielles, je fais allusion même à la fracture numérique parce que nous sommes des pays en développement et effectivement, le problème d'infrastructure, accès à Internet, etc., n'est pas forcément la chose la mieux partagée dans toutes les régions. Je parle de problèmes financiers. Quand on parle de PME, quand on regarde notre tissu, c'est donc essentiellement des petites entreprises qui n'ont pas forcément les possibilités financières pour engager des projets de transformation numérique et également les problèmes de ressources humaines parce qu'il faut de la compétence, il faut un certain niveau de compétence pour pouvoir c'est-à-dire pour pouvoir réaliser un certain type de projet. Alors, on est pourtant c'est-à-dire dans une mouvance où, quel que soit le secteur d'activité, les habitudes des clients, les exigences des marchés ne font qu'évoluer. Et aujourd'hui, la capacité des entreprises à intégrer les technologies va être aussi importante que la capacité à communiquer tout simplement. Les entreprises, next slide please, se doivent aujourd'hui d'agir vite, mieux et à moindre coût. Et pour cela, le numérique, effectivement, se positionne en fait comme le meilleur ou le levier d'accélération de performance organisationnelle le plus adéquat. Alors, quand on parle de, next slide please, lorsqu'on parle de transformation numérique ici, beaucoup ont tendance à assimiler ça peut-être à la création d'un site Internet ou à la présence sur les réseaux sociaux, avoir un compte Facebook ou Twitter, etc. Mais la transition numérique ici va beaucoup plus loin. Elle va au niveau du fait de repenser toute la chaîne de valeur de l'entreprise, d'être en mesure d'optimiser les processus de productivité et de communication afin de pouvoir garantir donc la compétitivité de l'entreprise et sa capacité à innover. Il s'agit ici de pouvoir mettre en place des processus de transformation continue parce que rien n'est statique. Les mutations technologiques sont constantes, les évolutions des marchés sont constantes, les besoins des clients, les besoins, c'est-à-dire même le positionnement des entreprises évolue. Du coup, il faut être inscrit dans un processus de transformation continue. Alors, lorsqu'on parle de transformation numérique, cela implique être présent sur Internet, utiliser des technologies, utiliser des systèmes. Et ça, c'est quelque chose à prendre avec précaution. Next slide, please. Donc, oui à la transformation numérique, mais non au problème. Pourquoi? Next, parce que aborder une transformation numérique implique énormément c'est-à-dire que implique une ouverture également. Et cette ouverture implique des possibilités, c'est-à-dire ouvre l'accès également, c'est-à-dire à des éléments fragiles de l'entreprise. C'est pourquoi il est vraiment important d'être conscient des risques majeurs qui existent avant de s'engager dans des projets de transformation numérique. Pour les principaux risques, on a les cyberattaques des entreprises. Les cyberattaques, aujourd'hui, on les compte par millions par seconde. Donc, il y a des personnes qui sont là, des hackers qui, juste pour se challenger, décident d'attaquer votre système, d'attaquer votre site Internet, d'attaquer votre serveur, etc. Il y a les piratages et intrusions, ça peut être à travers des clés USB, ça peut être à travers des mails, ça peut être à travers énormément de choses. Il y a du chantage qui peut se présenter à la suite de l'accès aux données d'une entreprise, l'usurpation d'identité, la e-réputation, on le voit tous les jours sur Internet, à travers même on est aujourd'hui vraiment en plein dans le télétravail, etc. Donc, on a tout le temps sa caméra allumée, à travers les réunions, etc. Quelqu'un peut chercher à accéder à ce système-là, peut-être pour entrer dans votre vie privée, etc. Et puis, également, quand on parle de transformation numérique, on parle investissement. Alors, si ces investissements ne sont pas suffisamment pensés, on peut se retrouver donc avec des pertes financières importantes. Maintenant, qu'est-ce qu'il faut faire? Next slide. Il est important de pouvoir mettre en place une stratégie de transformation digitale. Quand on parle stratégie de transformation digitale, ça a forcément à voir avec des questionnements. Il faut se poser les bonnes questions. Déjà, pourquoi entreprendre une transformation digitale? Ça ne doit pas être un effet de mode, parce que c'est vrai que parmi les facteurs qui poussent à la transformation digitale ou à l'adoption des technologies, il y a l'effet de mimétisme qui est tel que les gens décident de commencer des projets de transformation digitale parce qu'ils ont vu leurs confrères faire pareil. Mais il faut se poser la question de savoir, par rapport à mon organisation, pourquoi je veux entreprendre une transformation digitale? Qu'est-ce que je veux transformer? Quels résultats je veux obtenir? Quelle technologie est-ce que je dois choisir? Est-ce que je suis prêt, d'ailleurs, pour cette transformation digitale? Autant de questions qui se posent, mais on se demande, est-ce que le manager de la petite entreprise est suffisamment outillé pour répondre seul à ce type de questions? Next. D'où la nécessité, donc, justement, next slide, please, la nécessité de se faire accompagner dans son processus de transformation digitale. Alors, l'accompagnement dans le processus de transformation digitale a nécessairement un coût. Donc, d'où le caractère stratégique, à mon avis, des organisations comme l'Association pour les systèmes d'information. Pourquoi? Parce que ce type d'association offre tout un écosystème qui est complémentaire parce qu'il est constitué de différents profils, des professionnels, des startups, des étudiants, des intégrateurs, des structures d'accompagnement qui peuvent donc être mises à contribution pour envisager une transformation numérique progressive et continue. Next. Pourquoi je parle de transition progressive et continue? C'est parce que on a très vite tendance à se dire, OK, voilà, je suis une entreprise, je voudrais pouvoir automatiser la gestion de mes clients, récolter des informations sur eux et pouvoir produire des factures, etc. Tout de suite, on vous dira, OK, il faut penser à un ERP, etc. Mais est-ce que toute entreprise à toute taille est prête pour un ERP? Encore faut-il être capable de s'en offrir un. Et même si on va sur une solution open source et tout, il faut être capable de l'utiliser. On voit dans beaucoup d'entreprises des projets de transformation digitale, des projets d'intégration de technologies qui se soldent en général par des systèmes qui sont installés mais qui ne sont pas utilisés. Donc, pourquoi ne pas capitaliser sur des acquis que donc, des petites entreprises pourraient avoir? On peut avoir des ressources qui sont à l'aise avec Excel, par exemple, et puis mettre pour un projet simple, comme l'exemple que j'ai pris, d'installation d'un système pour gérer la relation avec les clients, il y a moyen de faire une toute petite solution, même juste avec Excel, pour permettre d'automatiser déjà ce processus. Et là, mettre à contribution, donc, par exemple, des étudiants ou des startups, ça peut, différents sujets peuvent, par exemple, servir de thème de recherche pour les étudiants qui, parfois, se retrouvent soit à enfoncer des portes ouvertes, soit en manque peut-être de thèmes concrets de recherche parce que, ou d'application ou de stages professionnels, parce qu'ils ne sont pas au courant des problématiques concrètes des entreprises sur le terrain. Donc, pour moi, une organisation comme l'Association pour les systèmes d'information est vraiment, peut vraiment se positionner comme un catalyseur en fait, pour pouvoir concrétiser et pérenniser cette transformation digitale progressive. Pour l'administration publique d'ailleurs, beaucoup de projets simples peuvent être mis en place sans forcément que ça ne coûte des millions, des milliards à l'administration, tout simplement en capitalisant sur les forces qu'on a en interne. On a dans notre Brain Booster, par exemple, qui est un accélérateur d'entreprise, on a autour de nous plein de jeunes startups qui ont des professionnels excellents, qui ne demandent qu'à avoir des opportunités de pouvoir déployer leurs compétences pour servir au développement. Donc, il faut, à mon avis, justement, une plateforme pour permettre c'est-à-dire cette mise en contact.
Désolé, Aurel, on ne t'entend plus, mais je pense que son message passe très, très bien. Tu peux reprendre la parole, peu importe quand est-ce que tu reviens en ligne. Est-ce que tu nous entends, Aurel? Moi, je ne t'entends plus. Bien. So we've lost the audio with Aurel, who was almost at the end of her presentation, which was about the digital transformation and how it applies to the private sector. So this is the last slide she had. And Aurel, tu m'entends? Okay. We will get to the next speaker. And please keep your questions for Aurel. She will certainly have the opportunity to answer those when she comes back online. And for now, we'll give the floor to Professor Frederick Riggins. I like to call him Fred. So Fred, you have the floor, and thanks for attending.
Thank you. Valera, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay.
Great, thank you. So I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Fred Riggins. I'm a professor at the College of Business at North Dakota State University in the United States. I am also the director of the Center for Enterprise Business Analytics, also the director of our Master of Science in Business Analytics. And I've known Professor Samuel Fasawamba for at least 15 years, maybe closer to 20 years, many years. We've had very close alignment of our interests over the years in terms of research interests, and working with each other on a few projects has been very rewarding. And so when Professor Samuel asked me if I would speak and I could choose whatever topic I wanted, I was eager to. And I've been investigating recently, I've been studying blockchain for at least 3 years, and very recently been looking into CBDC, central bank digital currency. So that's what I'd like to speak briefly on today. What I'll be talking on today really is an example of some of the technologies that IS professionals should be studying, researching, and understanding as working professionals, because they will have a dramatic impact as we go through this digital transformation, have an impact on society. And I'll be talking about that as it relates to digital currencies. So next slide, please. So the crypto space is just one of a long line of many technology advances that are contributing to this digital transformation we've been talking about. I'll be giving a little background on blockchain, speaking briefly on Bitcoin, I'm not going to talk about smart contracts, although I do believe that smart contracts are a very important feature technology that will be developed over the next decade, that information systems people need to know how to write smart contracts since they are at the intersection of business and information technology. Next slide, please. So blockchain, just to get a little background, some of you are very familiar with blockchain, some of you may not be, but as a technology, it's only 12 years old, having been started in January of 2009 when Satoshi Nakamoto introduced the Bitcoin blockchain. That was the foundation of, blockchain is the foundation of how Bitcoin operates. Blockchain as a term was not mentioned by Satoshi in his original paper about Bitcoin, but we know that the technology that Bitcoin is based on is blockchain, and it can be used in a number of different ways. His innovation was that he didn't really create anything new. He took a number of technologies that existed for several decades really, and combined them in a very unique way to create a blockchain. For example, the internet, peer-to-peer networking, exponentially increasing computational power, cryptographic hashing, innovative use of game theory incentives. Samuel, you'll be interested to know that when I talk about cryptographic hashing and cryptography in my class, I use the example of where I want to send a document encrypted to my colleague in Toulouse, France, and I talk about how that document gets encrypted and gets sent there. But the most famous example of blockchain clearly is Bitcoin. And as the Bitcoin price has fluctuated over the last 4 years, it's gained a lot of attention in media as well as academics are now very interested in this. Next slide, please. So let me just mention 4 important aspects of blockchain. One is it's a transactional ledger to record the state of value of something. Second, it's a distributed ledger. That is, there's a peer-to-peer network. All members of the node hold a copy of the database that is synced together. Third, any transaction or event is validated by agreement using some consensus mechanism and then added to the ledger as a new block. And fourth, the ledger is cryptographically secured and immutable so that it really cannot be changed, cannot be altered. Next slide, one more click, please. These things go together to create what's been referred to as a trust machine. We don't need a third party to allow me to conduct a business transaction, send a payment to another party. We don't need a bank, we don't need a government. Person A can send a transaction to person B, and it's the technology that provides the trust, not some other third-party intermediary such as a bank or government. Next slide, please. However, there are some limitations of Bitcoin, okay? Been known from the very beginning that real-world business transactions require a much more feature-rich system, and that's why Vitalik Buterin founded the Ethereum Foundation and started Ethereum that allows for programming of smart contracts to allow for more in-depth transactions or business to be conducted. Bitcoin also has a limited number of transactions it can handle in a certain amount of time. There's a mining consensus that was built into the system from the very beginning that is very energy intensive. It's called proof of work. And as the Bitcoin network has grown over the last 12 years, so has the power needed to conduct the Bitcoin mining that forms the basis of this consensus mechanism. And it's believed that right now, Bitcoin mining consumes approximately the same amount of energy as the country of Argentina. That is not sustainable over time. And many view Bitcoin as more of an investment rather than a transaction mechanism due to its price volatility. So there's several reasons why Bitcoin has some limitations. Next slide, please. So because of this, there's been interest in creating other forms of cryptocurrency that could be used as a global currency, if you will. And 2 years ago, Facebook announced their Libra project. I believe it was May of 2019, they announced this, that they would have a permission blockchain payment system that could be a global currency, if you will. And initially, there was a great deal of enthusiasm. There was a large number of companies that signed on to participate in this. And then in July of 2019, there was some scrutiny by the US government, some concerns of regulatory concerns. Many of the backers dropped off at that point in time, and they had to scale back their plans. But later, Facebook announced that this project would move forward as a new term of Diem would be the currency. It would be a cryptocurrency stable coin tied directly to the US dollar. And so they're still in the process of working through these details. Now, it's been announced that this month, Facebook Pay is to be extended to third-party online retailers. And they're also partnering with a specific bank, Silvergate Capital Bank, who is to be the issuer at some point of the Diem token, the cryptocurrency token that again will be tied directly to the US dollar. So right now they're focusing on having a payment system focused on the US market, and later would hope to merge these technologies into a real global payment system like the original vision was. How long this will take, we don't know. We do believe that Diem will, as a token, will be offered sometime later this year. We'll see. Next slide, please. And I should note that Amazon also has been talking recently or hiring people in anticipation of what is believed to be something similar as what Facebook is attempting to do to create some sort of stable coin to rival Bitcoin. All of these things, the rise of Bitcoin, the increasing price of Bitcoin over time, Facebook's efforts, possibly Amazon's efforts and others, have created this situation where governments realize that they need to get into the digital currency space. And these are just some examples of countries that have announced various projects or plans of what they're doing. China is the clear leader, having issued a digital yuan to certain parts of their country that is in use right now. It is a real digital currency in certain parts of the country. The US has announced that next month in September, they're going to release some position papers on where the US is going in terms of possibly having a digital dollar. Sweden is working with a local commercial bank in Sweden and plans to have a fully functioning CBDC central bank digital currency within 5 years. United Arab Emirates would like to have a digital currency within 2 more years. France and Singapore just completed a pilot project where they had joint cross-border payments using a CBDC token based on blockchain. The Bank of Ghana hopes to have a digital currency available for certain mobile app payments, supposedly this year. We'll see. But I've read of at least 80 different countries who are investigating the space because they realize that this is something that's coming and they need to learn and start developing their own digital currency strategy. Next slide, please. So why would governments want to do this? Well, I think the main one is that they don't want to allow the money supply to be controlled by private parties or by non-regulated technology solutions. As Bitcoin has become much more used and increase in price, there's a concern that this is not something that's being regulated. This is a currency that's not regulated. The Facebook concern had a lot of regulatory issues. And so governments have realized they need to get in the space. They want to create a digital currency that will promote peer-to-peer payments and business-to-consumer online payments to facilitate electronic commerce. That's been a major goal. With the pandemic, as governments have been issuing checks to individuals for stimulus purposes, there's a desire to have a mechanism to get money into citizens' hands that they can use very quickly. Some sort of digital currency would facilitate that. They know they want to have cross-border payments. They want to be able to eliminate physical cash and coins. This is something, again, because of the pandemic. The use of physical currency is not something that's desirable. And frankly, they want to track transactions and money flows to root out fraud, money laundering and so on, and this would facilitate that as well. Of course, with that comes a loss of privacy. So we need to understand how blockchain as a technology works as IS professionals, and we need to understand how this type of technology can be used and will be used by governments as they move towards this digital transformation in regards to our digital money. What are some potential impacts of this? Next slide, please. So these are some things that we could be researching as this evolution continues to go on. We don't know whether these things will happen, but these are some speculations I've read and have come across of people believing these are some of the possible impacts. As central bank digital currencies get issued and be adopted, that might drive some people towards something like Bitcoin or other non-government cryptocurrencies because they don't want to have their currency be that controlled by the use of their currency be that closely monitored by their government. It could actually end up in some not using CBDCs if there's another alternative. It will likely mean the end of physical currency. That's clearly a goal. I believe that in some places, there will be no physical currency within 5 years, 10 years certainly. Likely reduced use of credit cards. Some believe it will result in the reduced use role of the United States dollar as the main global currency. We'll see. I believe it will result in a reduced role for retail banks. I think the banks will have to re-strategize what is their service they're providing to their customers. If I can get money from my government directly on my mobile phone app and then pay for my groceries using that mobile phone app, what exactly do I need a retail bank for? We'll see. But some believe also it will result in more financial inclusion to the unbanked. This would be a good thing, certainly, especially in developing parts of the world. And then some are concerned about the tracking plus mining big data. This should result in reduced information asymmetries. Lending credit agencies will have a better understanding of how we spend our money and should be able to, it should result in less uncertainty, should be able to create more credit to people who are credit worthy as they understand who is credit worthy better. This should lead to increased economic development, many believe, but at the same time, loss of privacy. So many of these are just speculations that we could certainly be researching over the next decade. So I believe it's an example of an information technology we need to understand, and we need to see how it will be used in this digital transformation to impact the way we live our daily lives. And I believe that's my last slide, and I'll field questions later. Thank you.
So thank you, Fred. And that was very, very informative on a very interesting topic, Bitcoin and digital currencies. That's a very trendy topic today. The next presentation will be by Dr. Katina Michael, who will be introducing or entertaining us about the role of information system as an enabler of social development. Dr. Katina, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Vele.
Cool.
What a great series of presentations so far, might I add. Blown away by that one, Fred. Thank you so much for that contribution. Today, I'll be talking on IS as an enabler of social development. And I want to stress the social development, particularly the role of women and girls in transforming Central Africa. Next slide, please. So there is no doubt in my mind that information systems is an enabler of social transformation. Next slide. The question is, what kind of social development will this transformation yield? Social transformation has been defined as the restructuring of all aspects of life, from culture to social relations, from politics to economy, from the way we think to the way we live. Next slide, please. According to Rabi, societies once depended on their social transformation from associations in small communities. So we used to gather together. In ancient times, historically, even more recently, we'd gather together in some communities And that's where we would learn things. That's where we would transform. And we'd be knitted together by kinship, by our traditions and customs. And we were situated within nations that were tied together by history, politics, cultures, laws, and philosophies. And change at first was quite slow, right? So when we look at it historically, change took a long time to happen until humans created tools which disrupted the natural process of change. So as we built things and created things, our change became quicker, faster. Next slide. So for the positive philosopher, Auguste Comte, society as a whole moves through the law of 3 stages. So it doesn't matter which community you look at, which nation state, it looks like they are moving from these 3 stages. It begins with a theological stage, one where people are interested in maybe fetishism. Then they move to polytheism. So they believe in many gods. And then they move to a stage of monotheism. They believe in one God. And then they sort of move from that awareness, perhaps, and they seek a metaphysical stage. They say to themselves, we believe in a higher power. It's more abstract. They don't call the higher power God. And then finally, Comte argues they move to the positive stage, because he's a positive philosopher, of course, that it's scientific. Let me experiment. Let me create something. Let me see if it works. Let me see the result of my experiment. Then I can say X or Y. But for Søren Kierkegaard, the 3 stages of life were antithetical to Comte. One was in France, one was in Denmark. And Søren Kierkegaard says, we think about the 3 stages of life as analogous to an individual's existence. So a child is born into the world, is a toddler, she's growing up, they become an adolescent, and then they reach adulthood. And sometimes people put a 4th stage in there, the elderly. And as we grow through these individual stages of change, we grow in awareness, he says. And it's from the aesthetic to the ethical, and finally to the religious as we get closer to our deaths. So while Comte and Kierkegaard provide us with 2 seemingly opposite paradigms of their 3 stages of life, it's an explanation towards social development, right? We look at Africa. What is happening from what I'm talking about in these 3 stages in Africa? But Jacobs, a more recent scholarship group, part of the International Center for Peace and Development in 1997, spoke of evolution of social institutions, not just about the individual or the clan, but about this growth in institutions. And he and his team described the physical, the vital, and the mental. So initially, when we're learning, for example, how to create a language, it's all about the physical, hunters and gatherers. The vital then becomes more important about how we coordinate within a community. And finally, the mental. Why are we doing what we are doing with IS? Why are we deploying mobiles in the world? Why are we going towards Bitcoin? The mental, the preoccupation. And today I want to talk about the renewal of Central Africa. Next slide, please. Rabbi also states that once a society experiences profound transformation, that transformation is irreversible. Okay, so if I'm going to go and electrify an area, I can't say that tomorrow I will take down all the power lines. If I'm going to introduce something as impactful as the internet, I can't say tomorrow switch it off. Well, even if I do say that, for example, in the case that Fred just introduced to us, let's switch off cash, the physical item cash, let's turn it to Bitcoin. The memory of cash cannot be deleted from our mental minds. It's a mental model. We believe in cash to transact, whether it's in the form of Bitcoin or a blockchain system or platform is besides the point. So Rabbi argues, once a society transforms, it's very hard to reverse that transformation. Next slide. Here's a great example, even within the areas of Cameroon. This is a photo from a farm in Cameroon. We can see the goats with the RFID tag. So social development, okay, differs to social transformation. I want to say that. So the technology is coming closer to us. We're wearing it, we're bearing it in some cases, but social development of what I'm talking about today is different to social transformation. Next slide. It too is affected by tools and technologies, but social development is traditionally about children and young people learning the values, knowledge, and skills that enable them to relate to others. So when a child is young, you are trying to imbue values. You know, they fall down, they make mistakes, they trip it over, they learn how to tie their shoelaces. But now I'm talking about the values. When a child looks in the mirror, they smile, they don't frown, for example. A child who has been imbued with good social development, positive social development, is confident, understands their place in society, is not scared, can take instructions and follow them. So by exposing children and youth to positive values when they are in the social development phase, their chance of long-term success in interacting with others in society increases. This might be related to how a young person interacts with their family, their educators, and wider society. Tools have changed the means of communication and thus impacted the way people identify their values and live them. We now have these things, these mobile phones, which children are using as their teachers before they actually are assimilated within their own groups to understand things within a tribe, a clan, a family, a school setting, and that impacts the way that they communicate. So if we navigate to negative things via these communication tools on content, then we will be enslaved by that. And I can mention, for example, the introduction of the humble mobile phone in some places where children are now addicted to gambling or to gaming or so many other things like cybersex, for instance. In the next slide, please. But if we take a step back from where social development theory emerged, we can talk about social development in the context of improving the well-being of every individual in society so they can reach their full potential. Why do we introduce these tools? Because we want to see our full potential. We want to see individuals succeed in society. And that's linked to the well-being of each and every citizen. So if I prosper, my child prospers, my neighbor's child prospers, my family prospers, the families in my clan prosper, the clans in my country prosper, then it'll be a very, very strong country we're talking about. Social development means we need to invest in people, and not from a monetary perspective, but one of time. I spend time, I value this engagement today. I value listening to Fred and to Professor Samuel and Valère, and I value this community. I come again, I give of my time. That's what social development is. That's where we believe in the future path as being one that's positive and where we can develop in the skills that require to succeed, right? Both formal and informal skills, allowing each member of society to stand on their own 2 feet and feel like a valued member of society. While this is considered by some a type of volunteerism at the grassroots, by others, the ideal is considered a core value of imparting knowledge toward the prosperity of the community as a whole. How might we be able to raise one another's capacity and make it greater, right? Think about Africa. And how might the citizens feel once again in control of their future to the extent they can clearly see how they can influence the positive side and the generations to come. In the next slide. So social development incorporates public concerns in developing social policy and economic initiatives. Until relatively recently, social development was conceived in terms of a set of desirable results. We talk about higher incomes, longer life expectancy, low infant mortality rates, more education, greater pervasiveness of mobile phones in the community, for example. In the next slide. But recently, the emphasis has shifted from the results, for example, the infant mortality rates to be reduced, to the enabling conditions, strategies and public policies for achieving these results. We're more interested today in the conditions. We want peace, democracy, good governance, social freedoms, equal access. We need the laws, the institutions, the markets, and the markets to be in agreement on exchange, the infrastructure, right? And I want Africa to think about what I'm about to say. Who owns the African internet? It is not Africans. And it must be. the education, and the technology. So I'm going to point to the enabling conditions. If we want a lower infant mortality rate, we need better access to healthcare. If we want our children to be literate, we need to provide educational infrastructure. If we want them to be able to prosper using the mobile phone, we don't point to content, we point to how do you search for information. So in this call to the AIS group of Central Africa, with a particular focus on the role of women and girls, I want to talk about these forces at play, because this is where it's the higher order thinking. It's not just, I know how to build an IS or a database, or I know how to deploy a network. What are you going to do with this stuff? And so culture is catalytic in this role in achieving information systems with purpose, and information systems as a framework or a process of change that harnesses the richness of the local traditions that we must celebrate. Don't forget about Central Africa. Don't forget about Cameroon and its traditions. What you want to change, you change. What things don't fit in the modern world, you can change as a community, but don't forget about your customs and your traditions, celebrate them. And at the same time, attaining, right, the global reach, you teach the world what Central Africa has to offer, something very, very different to what the world has today. In the next slide, please. So all information systems design must be driven locally, of course it is, by local norms and local procedures and local stakeholders, shared between mothers and fathers and children, multi-generational, and through networks of care to nurture this emergent practice. The process must be inclusive of all members of society, of all genders, of all independent of beliefs. Diverse voices will only act to strengthen the richness of community. And here, I'm talking about the role of women and girls in reducing conflict. There can be no progress when people are fighting. In the next slide. Women and girls must not be vulnerable, living in fear, especially during times of conflict. So if we want people to feel safe, we need to end conflict. This is not just in Africa, but all the world. Rather, we must make people feel empowered that they can participate in society as valued members. Girls equal to boys, women equal to men, and other gender identifications and other religious beliefs, despite that Africa is predominantly a Christian location and Muslim location. Information systems may be a mechanism toward liberation and independence if used appropriately, granting access to timely information and services. Women and girls seek peaceful resolution to conflict. That's when they know the importance of healthcare and education for their families, and they want to see democratization as a way forward. And in my last slide, this is a call to action, not to destabilize what has worked in Central Africa. Don't let go of what works. Your community and your family orientation is stronger than other parts of the world. Keep close together. And it's not to tell the women and men of Africa, you should do this, or this is how you should do it. I'm not going to tell you. I don't know your lived experience. I'm not African. I'm an outsider, but I wish to co-design with you and learn from you and listen to you and help you, as you will in turn help me through the exchange and the awareness of your customs and traditions. I want to encourage you to recognize the power toward positive change, the power that's within you, the power that's within your family structures and your tribes and your clans and your nations. I want you to harness those incredible cultural traditions and infuse them into the modern world from a social development perspective. Look here, I show you this amazing feature in this diagram, the Lusona. You have ideographic traditions dating back thousands and thousands of years. They function as mnemonic devices to help remember proverbs, fables, games, riddles, animals, and to transmit knowledge. You used to communicate in parts of Africa, Central Africa, using drums across 160 kilometers, using individual biometric beats to identify a single person, and that single person could get a message 160 kilometers away by the drum beat because it was a spoken word as they drummed to this single individual. You have to unlock these things in our information systems, build new architectures in the chip designs, build new things, but based on what you have in your history. So with that, I thank you in my last slide and close.
It will be very difficult to say anything after such a brilliant presentation. Thank you, Katina. Our next presentation will come from Dr. or Professor Antoine Harfouche. I'm sorry if I'm breaking something here in your name.
Hello, yeah, this is my name. Thank you very much. Yeah, as you said, it will be very, very difficult for me to say anything after Katina Michael. That was wonderful. I was like, now I will try to make a speech, but wow. Thank you very much, Katina, and thank you for all the speakers today. They were all very, very good. My part will focus mainly on ICTO, ICTO Association. So I will talk about how a community and how we can be how being member of a community can be of any advantage for a researcher, and why we need to create these impactful communities. So next slide, please.
Oh, come on.
So I will have two main points in my talk today. The first one is the big picture. What is the Association for Information System? Is it an inclusive association? Do we have our place in this association? And the second point is, what's ICTO? Why did we create ICTO? Why do we need to work all together inside ICTO? And what are the results of ICTO? So 2 points. The first one, the AIS. The chapter Central Africa is part of the AIS. So what's the AIS? Next slide. So first, the AIS is an association like many, many other associations. And if we look to the big picture in information system and technology in general, you will see that the AIS is the smallest association between many other associations. For example, if we take an information system and technology angle, you have IEEE, the leader, with 500,000 members. The Association for Computing Machinery, 100,000 members, while the AIS is maximum 5,000-6,000 members. If we take an operational research and analytics, we have Informs with more than 15,000 members today. Academy of Management, more than 22,000 members. So you see, the AIS is a small association. So why do we need to be members of this small association? First, when you study all these associations, you will see that the AIS has biggest potential to grow and to become much more impactful and influential in our domain, because it deals with technology in a specific way. The interest of this technology is not only technical, but the most important in AIS is to understand the impact of technology on the society and on organizations. So we are a member of the AIS because it has a lot of potential. It can grow fast. It will grow because technology will become so central to our life. It is today, so we're not talking about the future. It is today very central, but slowly people will understand that the impact on our life, on our organization, is the best angle that we need to study. So this is why AIS is a good outlet for us. Next slide, please. So the AIS has three big, let's say, parts. The first one is the AIS is organized into chapters. They have regional and country chapters. For example, the Italian chapter, we have Marco Di Marco here. I saw his name. Marco is here, for example. He is the founder of the Italian chapter of the AIS. And he is also one of the founders of many chapters, local chapters, country level chapters, such as Russian chapter. He's co-founder of the Russian chapter, the Lebanese chapter, the Middle East chapter, and many other, 10 chapters in total. So the AIS has local chapters, and they have also regional chapters. Regional chapters will cover regions such as Central Africa, West Africa, East Africa, North Africa. They have also special interest group. So from one side, they have 46 chapters, but they have also special interest groups. People can join the AIS, not just to be a member in a chapter, they can also work with others on a specific topic. We saw the presentation of Professor Wamba. He was talking about some topics such as human-computer interaction, analytics, artificial intelligence. So they have 47 special interest groups. So once you're a member of the AIS, you can select also to become member also of one of these 6 special interest groups. And they have 4 colleges. One of the most important colleges today is the Women Network, very influential network and making a lot of impact today. And they are very strong and very present. Next slide, please. Thank you. The question is, in this big picture, why do we need ICTO? First, ICTO came as a need. Why? Because at that time, when we created ICTO in 2014 with Marco Di Marco and many other colleagues from Europe and Middle East and Africa, at that time, the AIS was, let's say, not very inclusive. At that time, 90% of the council members were only from USA. And 90% also of members of all the committees were from the USA. It's still the case, but things are changing. But for example, we saw some statistics that were presented by Professor Wamba. We saw, for example, that, let me give you a few numbers. Less than 2% of members of the board of the basket journals, the most important journals in IS, more than 54% are only from the USA. Imagine half of the board of the journals are from USA. Only 2% are from Africa. 0% are from the Middle East. I'm from the Middle East. I'm originally from Lebanon. So 0%, imagine, in the basket journal are from the Middle East. So there was a need for us to bring more inclusion into the AIS. This is why we created it. Next slide, please. There was also another problem. Despite the importance of the information system domain and the great work done by the AIS, there was a governance problem. This governance problem was simple. You have a board, the council, the AIS council, that govern the association. You have members. The members are down on this graph. You can see all these members down. They are 6,000 members. These members can be members of 6 special interest groups, chapters, and colleges. These chapters, colleges, and SIGs are represented in the council by 2 VPs. VPs are vice presidents. One vice president for SIGs and colleges, another vice president for chapters. But the problem is that these VPs, both VPs are like elected by all the members of the AIS. It means you have 47 chapters. All the members of these chapters will vote for the VPs. Why this is a governance problem? Because most of these chapters, when you see that you have 46, I mean 46 chapters, not 47, sorry. They will become 47 soon. 46 chapters today are very active, but some chapters, 3 or 4, are so big, and because they are big in number, so they can like monopolize the decisions. Whenever they decide to vote all for one member of these chapters, of course, this member is elected. So the governance problem is clear. It's a weight problem. When you have more than 50% of the members from 1 or 2 chapters, these chapters will vote for their members, and they will elect a board, like always the same board, and little inclusion will be possible in this way. So next slide, please. Thank you. So the ICTO Association came at that time to say that we want to make the AIS and the information system domain, research in information system, we want to make it inclusive. So what is the strategy that we want to implement? We were thinking about these big chapters. They are making progress. They are bringing good research, but they are the same names, same journals. So first we came all together, small chapters, and we said, let's unify our efforts. Let's work together hand by hand, and let's try to make an impact. So the might is right. So we wanted to make an impact by joining our forces. How? We said, how can we join our forces? We fixed a system of values that we want to defend. We started first with 4 values. From 2014 till 2020, we had only 4 values: ethics, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And slowly and in 2020, we moved to add 3 more values because we wanted to make more impact on the society and organization. We added sustainability, responsibility, and innovations. So we want to not only defend the values of ethics, diversity, and bring more people to the decision and open the basket journals to more papers coming from Africa, from Middle East, and from underrepresented groups, but we want also to make these research impactful, that they can be innovative, they can become responsible, and to make a much more sustainable world. Next slide, please. So we created the ICTO Alliance, an alliance between chapters of the AIS. So members of the chapters, they decided together to create an alliance to fight for, one, to make the AIS more global, more international, more democratic, and more inclusive. Democratic because we want to include, to give power to underrepresented group and to give them the possibility to make an impact and to be part of the process. We wanted to reduce the registration fees of international conferences, because if you take the main 4 conferences in information system, ICIS, ECIS, ESIS, European Conference, which is the region 2, our conference, I use our because we are part, all of us are part of the region 2. We saw it with Professor Wamba. The ESIS, European Conference for Information System, is the conference for the region 2. And you saw that only 3%, the 3 papers, sorry, from 280 papers accepted, usually there are 3 papers from Africa, conditionally accepted papers. So we want to reduce the registration fees so we can attract more participants, because when the registration fees of ESIS, ICIS, AMSIS, America's Conference, and PACSIS, Pacific Asia Conference for Information System, when the registration fees are $1,000, it's too much for people coming from Middle East and Africa. So we went asking, and we went using all the possibilities that we have to ask for leaders and vote for leaders who will promise to reduce and to work on reducing registration fees. And we wanted also to offer publication opportunities. So how can we increase publication? We said we need to create special issues adapted and targeting developing countries. So we can open a window. From this window, good papers can come and more people can publish and names become famous, and researchers become more and more famous, so they can gain in trust and they can publish in better journals. Next slide, please. So our main aim in ICTO is to make an impact, but making impact through publishing. We want to publish high quality academic papers. So yeah, all the discourse that I was using till now is like political, but at the end, we are not here to make any election. We are not here to win election in the United States, or we are here to make research. But we want to improve ourselves, improve our quality of paper, increase the level of our knowledge, and then publish papers that can make an impact. So that's very important. It's not published just to publish hundreds of papers, but we want to select topics. I will take an example because till now, probably I'm just talking. Let's take an example for the Lebanese chapter, because I'm originally from Lebanon. What is impactful paper? Everyone knows, for example, information, the importance of information. So most of researchers will study, for example, how information can help decision makers to take good decisions. Impactful research will, for example, sometimes go in a different direction, something like very, very local. If you take it from its context, it cannot be very well understood. This is why, for example, big journals will not be interested of. For example, I will give you an example of a research that is that is supported by ICTO in Lebanon. You heard about the explosion of Beirut on 4th of August last year, 2020. At that time, for example, the big explosion happened at the port of Beirut. More than 250 people died at that time last year. So what's interesting in studying, for example, this kind of, the information was given to all decision makers. The matrix of risk was clear, it was red. Everyone had the information. So information systems were working. Decision makers had the information, they had the matrix, it wasn't red. So this is a typical case where if you look to information system is successful. It gave what it needs, which is the good information, and classified the information like in red, risky, on the risk matrix. It was red, it means very risky. But nothing happened. During years, it was risky, it was there, but it was no knowledge to deal with what will go after we have the information, how the decision making will move to action. So these kind of impactful, very important, very specific, very context-dependent research, not of big interest for big journals, are for us very important, and we want to push these impactful, very specific and context-dependent research. Next slide.
Yes, Professor Harfouch, as we move to the next slide, yes. I just want to assure the audience that we timed the meeting, the conference to last 2 hours approximately, and I know the time is running, we're almost like 15 minutes close to the end. We will make sure that we spare enough time for you to ask your questions. So for myself,
I will be quick.
We'll go. Thank you.
I'll be very quick. So yeah, the ICTO Alliance is an alliance of 8 chapters. The MENA chapter, the Italian chapter, Poland, Lebanese, Asia, South Africa chapter, East Africa chapter, Qatari chapter, and Bulgaria. And today we will move from 8 to 10 very soon, because we are inviting the Central Africa chapter and the West Africa chapter. So the idea is to come 10 chapters and increase the alliance. This is why today I'm making this presentation, because we want to invite you clearly, we want to invite you to decide to join our alliance so we can put together hand in hand our forces. Next slide, please. So the ICTO Alliance, as I said, we want to make impactful research through these values: ethics, diversity, equity, inclusion, sustainability, responsibility, and innovation. Next slide. Yeah, I will be quick because we still have only 10 minutes. So 2 strategies are implemented by ICTO. The first one is, I'm sorry, the previous one. Thank you. It's 2 strategies. One is vertical. Vertical, it means we want to encourage the creation of local chapters. Moroccan chapter, Tunisian chapter, all these local, let's say, country level chapters. But in the same time, we have a horizontal strategy that is to integrate these chapters in order to avoid fragmentation, to integrate them into alliances and big regional chapters, such as the Central Africa, West Africa, East Africa, and South Africa. So small chapters can be doing like local research, like I gave the example of the Lebanese research, so it is specific local, interesting into local research that can make local impact. But in the same time, they can be part of a community, a wider community, so they can make better conferences and bigger impact. So for example, we have now the MENA chapter, which is the Middle East and North Africa chapter, that covers 32 countries. So it became one of the biggest chapters of the AIS. It has been created 3 years ago. 19 people created this chapter. Today they are around 130, and this is the 3rd or 4th chapter of the AIS. We want also to invite you, because next year I will become the president of the MENA chapter. So as president of MENA, Middle East and North Africa, I want to invite the other chapters in Africa to create the African Alliance, the African Alliance that will join all the big chapters and all the chapters in Africa, so we can create an African conference for information system. Next slide, please. Next one, this one I will skip it. Yeah, through publishing strategy. So we want to create chapters, but why? Because we want to publish. So I will finish with this slide. Publishing strategy, we started to publish in like, let's say, Springer Scopus Index lecture note when we started, and quickly we start to adopt more and more special issues, specific special issues in very good journals. For example, 2019 Annals of Operation Research and Enterprise Information Management. They are online, all the papers are online now. 2020, we had more than 6 journals, 6 special issues. And this year, 2021, we'll also have many special issues. So the idea is to improve and push people and help people improve their quality of their papers so they can move from like acceptable research into better and better. And every year we'll try to improve our special issues and improve the quality of our research. Thank you very much. That was my speech. So we can keep a few minutes for the questions.
Thank you, Dr. Harfouch. I'm sorry, I have to get it this time. And according to our schedule, I'm supposed to make a presentation after following Dr. Harfouch. And I will say mainly that given everything that we've heard so far, it's very difficult to fit in something that was missing from the previous presentations. However, I skimmed my presentation while the previous speakers were talking. I wanted to address or to bring forward the key challenges that we may be facing when adopting information system or solutions in the Central Africa ecosystem. So from Orel's presentation to Professor Samuels to the last one we just heard from Professor Harfouch, they went over some of the key elements that I could have brought up here. But just to let you know that my take will be framed within the context of the Central Africa chapter of the AIS, just to see that as we adhere to that vision and to those objectives, that we can have very specific challenges that can be typical to the Central African region, and thanks that we have almost all the sectors of our chapters represented in here. I will just bring up 3 key elements that I can see here. The difficulty is to design solutions based on local needs, analyses, and issues, and go from that idea or that observation to a viable solution. So that fits into the ideas, the sharing of ideas and knowledge and experiences from the Central Africa chapters of the AIS. There's also a lot of limitations that are related to the limited industrialization of our area. And this has been mentioned briefly in all the different presentations as well. So typically today, to bring up a solution that viable, the entrepreneur has to go almost through the entire line of production or chain, from the idea to the solution. They have to do almost everything. And the last and not the least element I want to bring up here is about the networking and the market adoption. Networking into promoting existing initiatives or ideas, and the market adoption, the key or the main the main client in that area being the public sector. It's not always easy to get those solutions adopted by that main client. So those 3 areas, I wanted to see them as the challenges or the key area of challenges that we'll be facing here in this chapter into getting information systems from ideas to viable solutions that are used and adopted. And I'm happy that we have people from the education sector, people from the industry, and people from the public sector here to start this journey with us. But yes, this is not to say that it's a dead end. No, there are really paths to green that we can explore. And I'm happy that the Central Africa chapter of the AIS is around, and we can make use of its powerful network, its experience, its knowledge, its background to lead those initiatives through viable information system or solutions out there. So I will not go deep into all the different items, but just to mention that, yes, the training, the hands-on training, I will educate our scholars, universities, and all these training institutions. Yes, they will focus, I hope they will focus on adapting the training so that it leads to entrepreneurs, people who can take initiatives and turn their ideas into viable solutions. We can also have a local partnership among the entrepreneurs so that they can build a chain of production, helping entrepreneurs not to having to do everything from start to finish, but instead using different assets that are into the ecosystem there. And same thing using the AIS network for outreach, for education, and all similar organizations. And also to disseminate whatever knowledge and experience and ideas they've had. And of course, ending on the social inclusion, mainly for women and young, getting them into the arena so they can express their ideas, their challenges, and their experiences as well. I think this is all I wanted to bring up here, just to say that the AIS chapter is aware that there are challenges that are really inherent to the Central Africa region. And we are happy to know that this network is around there to help going through those challenges. I think now we are open, we're going to open the floor for questions. For those who are in Yaoundé within the Brennan Boosters premises, feel free to ask your questions directly. We can open your microphone. If you are remotely, attending remotely or participating remotely, you can put your questions in a chat or request to have the microphone or to have the floor, and then we'll